Chair, with your indulgence, if I could maybe, while amendment number 1 and 2 aren't grouped, I would like to maybe make the verbal contribution on behalf of both of them, because they are actually related to much the same thing, and it's pretty much hard to talk about one without the other. Now, amendment 1 deals with the wait period for the first review of the suitability of the harmonised index of consumer prices for the setting of periodic payment order amounts. Now, our proposal in this amendment is to reduce the time we have to wait for the review to be done from 5 years to 3 years, and I'll maybe talk about that in a minute. But both Amendment 1 and 2 relate to the crucial issue of linking periodic payment orders to the actual cost of healthcare. And as we pointed out at second stage, if this isn't done, we run the very real risk that people catastrophically injured in our health service won't receive funds sufficient to actually pay for the care that they need. And we've recently had representation from, for example, slightly wards of court at the Justice Committee and the complexities around some of those issues. Now, at committee stage, we tabled a number of amendments that propose the creation of a new index based, among other things, on the actual cost of care, and for that index to be linked or to be used in calculating periodic payment orders. Those amendments were defeated at committee stage, with the Minister noting that there could be problems with the reliability of a new index early on in the periodic payment order system. So in light of that, what we've done today is really just that the Minister would review the suitability of the index that's now being proposed in this bill, the harmonised index of consumer prices, after 3 years instead of 5, and that if the Minister forms the view that the index isn't suitable, that they would be required to specify a different one. That's the nub of the two proposals before the House this morning. I think it is worth pointing out that the original recommendation with regard to indexation of PPOs was one which was unanimously endorsed by the Judicial Working Group on Medical Negligence, and was that an earnings and cost-related index would be introduced as a guide to these PPO costs. But the bill before us uses the harmonised index of consumer prices as published by the CSO, with no special provision for index of care costs, which is the exact opposite of what the Judicial Working Group recommended, and completely ignores their unanimous recommendation. Linking payment orders to the HICP ignores the real difference between general increases in consumer prices compared to the much greater increase in medical wage and treatment costs. And the Working Group on Legislation to Provide for PPOs points out that the Department of Finance, in its paper on PPO indexation, stated that an index based purely on either the CPI or the HICP would not directly take account of wages, and that the CSO's quarterly earnings, hours and employment cost survey should give the best outcome to recipients over the longer term. So using the right index is actually critical, which is why so many of the working groups spent so long on telling us what it should be. And what we're doing in this Act is not that, it's something different. So I think it does cause a problem. It's a problem that will get worse over time. And I think another point of danger, I suppose, is that the word on the ground among people who work in the area is that if this proposed system isn't changed to something else, then plaintiffs won't go for PPOs, and that's what we want them to be doing at all, and that they'll instead take lump sums, which is what we're supposed to be moving away from. And it would be crazy if we went to the trouble of bringing in this legislation only to have it not used. So, as I say, we're not really actually asking for that much. We're asking that the review would occur in a timely manner, 3 years instead of 5. We think 3 years is enough for trends to emerge without them having a potential negative impact on recipients. We think 5 years is too long, and it could bring us in that territory where people are being negatively impacted upon. And then the other change, as I said, on number 2, on Amendment 2, is at the moment, it's not radical at all. At the moment, the bill says that the Minister may propose an alternative index after the review, even if the review has found that it isn't suitable. But we think that's ludicrous. It should say if he finds that he or she finds it's not, they shall come up with another alternative. And I wouldn't have thought either of them were hugely problematic, to be honest.
The